World War II started, and I'm in the bathroom. I I was back there brushing my teeth after breakfast, and the head, as the bathrooms are called aboard ship, the head was directly underneath the area where the Marine squad stood and performed the ceremony of colors. 8 o'clock in the morning, they raised the flag, and I could hear them shuffling around up there. And then all of a sudden, the shuffling got real quick and fast, and it was as though they had left the area. And they did, of course. That's what actually happened after they raised the flag. But that was, and about that time, the general alarms sounded. That meant that everyone should go to their battle station, and that was my signal to go from the stern of the ship to the forward part of the ship, where my battle station was in turret 1. I was the right gun captain in turret 1. I loaded and closed the breech and things of that nature with that big turret gun, and so I went up there to as fast as I could. When I went in going from the stern to the bow, or almost to the bow, I was in the weather. I wasn't on the weather deck. In other words, outside of the ship. I was in an enclosed area, and I couldn't see outside. When I got to the forward casemate, I went up a ladder and out onto the weather deck, and what a startling sight. I looked over to my left, and there was a Japanese plane. It was very shocking. It, as I recall it, in my mind's eye, I see a torpedo between the wheels, or it had just left and went ahead of the plane. I can't really tell you in truth which, but it was going to use that torpedo. It was in a pattern probably that would aim the torpedo at the Arizona. We were moored right behind the Arizona. Probably our bow was 30, 40 feet at the most from their stern. And we were tied up, as I remember, to Keys 14. I'm not sure about that number, but it was something like that. And the Arizona and another ship, a supply ship, were directly ahead of us. So I went under the overhang of the turret. That's the way you get in a turret, underneath the back part, and then there's a small opening that you climb up in the turret, and went to my battle station. Oh, we weren't going to fire those guns, I'll tell you that, because we had removed the powder, the propellant that moves the projectile, and we had taken it out for replacement. I think at that particular time, right at that time, a barge was carrying powder to our ship, but they never got there, and they got the word or saw what was happening and returned to the ammunition depot. Anyway, we didn't have any powder, and we weren't going to shoot any guns. So we were in the turret, And that's when the attack happened. I was on the loading platform of my gun, and a torpedo hit directly underneath the breech, underneath the loading platform, and it just raised the ship, it seemed like, and shook it like a dog would shake a rabbit, or a beagle would shake a rabbit, something of that nature. And then it settled back down. That was one thing that happened while I was in the turret. Another thing that happened, a bomb hit almost underneath the muzzles of the 14-inch turret guns, and the force of the explosion raised the muzzles. They're pivoting on a point there, and the breech went down, and it seemed as though the loading platform fell out from underneath me. This bomb hit, and it was a big one, because you could really feel it. But there was no force of explosion that come in the turret, anything like that. It was just felt from outside. And then that was probably, 3/4 of an hour that we spent in the turret. And the actual attack was probably over at that time. Anyway, the turret officer said we should go outside and fight the fire that the bomb had caused on the forecastle and in the forward part of the ship. And the firefighting was very basic. We were even using our buckets that we wash clothes in a line, and throwing that water on the fire that existed down in the ship. And then a tug came alongside and tied up to us. And they were going to move us because they were fearful that, well, I didn't say anything about the ship getting underway, did I? Anyway, that's what happened. The ship got underway, we backed down, and then went forward into the channel. When we got out there, that's when we took all those hits. The torpedo was a hit before, but the bombs, 7 bombs, I think, hit the ship, and we took those hits when we were underway, probably. So we went aground, and the tug tied up to us. We're still fighting fires. At that time, I was told to man a 5-inch anti-aircraft gun on the boat deck. That's when I realized that men were getting killed because some of them were still there wounded. We were taking the wounded off in boats and taking them to the hospital. The guns were almost out of commission exactly, or almost completely out of commission. And in order to fire them, you use the most basic pointing and training. It was hardly worthwhile to shoot a round off. We didn't do that because we didn't have any targets. Later that night, some of our own planes come in from the aircraft carriers, and we did fire our guns, but of course, mistakenly did, and luckily we didn't hit anything. So that's where I ended up on that 5-inch 25 number 1 anti-aircraft gun. I was there for, I suppose, 2 or 3 days. We just lived on the gun. And so we slept on the deck if we slept at all. We weren't supposed to sleep, actually, any more than we just had to or whatever.